Going to actually start teaching. Hey, it's Friday, the 13th of May, and we're going to start teaching and try to contain as much crazy as we can. Welcome to the first period. Let's see, from there we're going to do some reading and talking and making kids entertained. Early book report was due today. If not, then you can turn it in Tuesdays. You can turn it in after Tuesday, as I've mentioned before. But the problem with turning it in after Tuesday is it does cost you points. But you can make up for it by then doing extra work if you want to, because it does charge you 15 points, which will drop you down to an 85%, because it's out of 100, which means you could do extra stuff to then make up for it. I don't recommend turning it in June, because your grades will already be turned in, and that does you no good, and that's a lot of extra work. So you should probably turn it in before then if you're wanting. Tie game was Cars. It was, by the way, that was our last tie game that you'll ever get a chance to play. And you way out on top. Next week I have theme shirts I wear the week, and the last week is last week of school, and I'm not doing ties that week. And then stuff.
Is it like shirt game next week?
Sure, it's a pretty easy theme.
I'm gonna win.
If you're when you turn in the book report, you're going to get the grading sheet, and you're going to have to fill in the spots where you tell me what it is I'm grading, so it makes things much easier on me. So that way I know which article goes to which grade, so we can sort of match things up and go from there. And then same thing if you do the extra credit and the advertisements. And for the others, just tell me what obituaries, and then tell me fashion section, interview the character, so I can figure out which one goes where, and then the extra credit, you just list. And if you do more than 6 things of extra credit, you just list them down here. Like if you do extra advertisements, just list extra ads, and then just tell me what they are. Don't list like each advertisement. You just put all your advertisements together. Then you can spend your B points starting next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, although we're going to have NWEA on Monday, so you can spend points and take a wonderful test. And there. You don't need to see that from you guys now. Any other questions aside from the letter being delivered to my room now? Yeah. Catton! They apparently need you, so you get to not stand for a few minutes. What a happy day. I know. And then come on back. Any other questions from you guys as far as the book report goes before I move on from there? Before you guys get into your final weekend of pushing. My goal, hopefully, was that you should not have a lot of book report work to do, because if you did all of the rough drafts and the checking and you typed it all up, then it's just a matter of getting it all organized, making it look pretty, putting the final polish on the color of pictures or something like that, and then getting it turned in. So that was my goal, was that you should not have a lot of work to do now, although I'm sure some of you pushed to do extra work at the very end and be lazy early. That was something else. And that was something else. Floor and Gilder. All right. There are a couple scenes I want to read with you as we get into the book. If you've not made it to the page 172, it's not the end of the world. It just means I'm going to be giving away some little bits and pieces with you. Coming up next week, our schedule is going to be a little on the funky side. Monday, we're going to have the NWEA test, which means I'll take pretty much the entire class period, whatever time we have left over. You're more than welcome to read. And then Tuesday, we're going to be talking about the end of Chapter 5 and the end of Chapter 6. And then on Wednesday, we're talking about the end of the book. And then Thursday, we have the test over the whole book. And then Friday, we move on from there. And that's the entire week of next week. Yes?
Do you have any books that I could borrow, or do I need to go to my locker, because I don't think the pages are the same as
They are not going to be the same, and no, I do not have any for you to borrow. So this is your way of saying you decided that you should probably go get the actual.
And I'm pretty sure you have a Princess Bride copy.
I do, but those page numbers are also different because it's a different version.
Okay.
Yeah. This is almost like the ebook version, but like paper.
But that's
Issues. All right.
better than digital.
That's something. All right, let's see.
It's true. Paper is better.
We get introduced from there to Buttercup, and Buttercup and the Count. Ooh, the Buttercup and Count are going to get married, because why would the Count not marry Princess Norina? She's bald. And then we find out that he needs someone to marry who is going to be incredibly attractive, and who incredibly attractive person does he choose? Buttercup. And so, are they going to marry for love?
No.
Because who does she love?
Wesley.
But Wesley's dead, so that's not going to do us any good. And she tells him, I'm not going to love you. And he's like, who needs love and marriage? That's old school. And so they decide to go ahead and get married anyway, and they decide to bond. Ali?
Why did they name their kid Buttercup, or is that a nickname?
I think it's her name. They're farmers. I don't know. It was either that or Daisy. So they were Buttercup. They were a big fan of Powerpuff Girls. What?
I read the whole plot on Wikipedia.
Okay, good job. Now we actually have a book you can read too. And so from there we have, let's see, Buttercup and he are going to get married. Oh, and then she gets kidnapped. And who does she get kidnapped by?
Fezzik, Inigo, and Vizin.
Random people. Fezzik, Inigo, and Vizzini. And which one of them is the hunchback Sicilian that's the ringleader? Vizzini. And then one of them is the super strong man?
Fezzik.
And then one of them is the Spaniard who's good at fencing?
Inigo.
Who is a grand master at fencing. And then...
No, he's a wizard.
Sorry, I say grand master, didn't I? That's embarrassing. Grand wizard at fencing. And he is one of the few that are... She is correct, the Grand Wizard. And so to talk about the fact that he moved his way up. He worked really hard to become a Grand Wizard. He had to kill a lot of people. Worked his way up to the Grand Wizard of fencing. Why is it that they kidnap her? No, did we not get to that part? What happens is they are paid by someone. You are correct. And what they have to do is they are kidnapping her in order to start a war between Florin and Gilder. And so that would be the way that you would start a war, is you kidnap the prince's brand new fiancée, because they're not married yet. She's princess to be. She's not an actual princess yet. She's just a random person. No, they did make her a princess, didn't they? Because they made her a princess of the, whatever that chapter 4 was, random Commonwealth of something. So she's a princess. And so they're supposed to kidnap her so that she can be killed and frame... Gilder, because she lives in Florin. And then, let's see, from there, Gilder, Florin, they kidnap her. And they're escaping, and as they're escaping, who follows them?
A man in black.
Nicely done. The man in black. And then she jumps overboard. And when she jumps overboard, what's going to eat her?
Sharks.
Nicely done. Sharks, not the shrieking eels, but actual sharks. The shrieking eels are in the movie, which is actually one of the things I like better in the movie than the book, was the shrieking eels, because that's just hilarious. But here, it's just actual sharks. And then, yay, you're back. Welcome back. And then they climb up the cliffs of insanity in order to try and escape. And that's where I was going to start. And I'm going to go back and read page 142. I just wanted to go back and read that scene real quick. With the scene between, what's his name? Inigo, and then the man in black who is following them, although we don't know why he's following him yet. Which is where that little thing is. So when he said, kill the man in black, all other possibilities ceased to exist. The man in black had to die. And this is page 142. Where is it?
I don't know.
All right, so you got out your iPad so you can at least try and follow along?
I forgot my iPad.
We are just full of all kinds of issues, aren't we? Well, one well done, Old.
Is it Friday?
I feel the same way.
It's Friday.
Inigo paced the cliff edge, fingers snapping. 50 feet below him now, the man in black still climbed. Inigo's impatience was beginning to bubble beyond control. He stared down at slow progress. Find a crevice, jam in the hand. Find another crevice, jam in the other hand. 48 feet to go. Inigo slapped his sword handle, and his finger snapping began to go faster. He examined the hooded climber, half hoping he'd be six-fingered, but no! This one had the proper accompaniment of digits. By the way, why does Inigo care about the number of fingers?
Because the six-fingered man killed his daddy.
How many fingers?
6.
That's
You did not
Well,
raise
11.
your hand.
the six-fingered man killed. Now, not a total of 6 fingers, but 6 fingers on one hand. And so the fact that, so yes, that's 5. Way to count. You're looking. And so 6 fingers. So there you go. Looks completely normal. Yep. 47 feet to go now. Now 46. Hello there! Inigo hollered when he could wait no more. The man in black glanced up and grunted. I've been watching you. The man in black nodded. Slow going, Inigo said. Look, I don't mean to be rude, the man in black said finally, but I'm rather busy just now, so try not to distract me. I'm sorry, Inigo said. The man in black grunted again. I don't suppose you could speed things up, Inigo said. If you want to speed things up so much, the man in black said, clearly quite angry now, you could lower a rope or a tree branch or find some other helpful thing to do. I could do that, Inigo agreed, but I don't think you would accept my help, since I'm only waiting up here so that I can kill you. That does put a damper on our relationship, the man in black said then. I'm afraid you'll just have to wait. 43 feet left. 41. I could give you my word as a Spaniard, Inigo said. No good, the man in black replied. I've known too many Spaniards. Going crazy up here, Inigo said. Anytime you want to change places, I'd be too happy to accept. 39 feet and resting. The man in black just hung in space, feet dangling, the entire weight of his body supported by the strength of his hand jammed into the crevice. Come along now, Inigo pleaded. It's been a bit of a climb, the man in black explained, and I'm weary. I'll be fine in a quarter hour or so. Another quarter hour? Inconceivable. Look, we've got a piece of extra rope up here we didn't need when we made our original climb. I'll just drop it down to you, and you grab hold, and I'll pull, and no good, the man in black repeated. You might pull, but then again, you also just might let go, which, since you're in a hurry to kill me, would certainly do the job quickly. But you wouldn't have ever known I was going to kill you if I hadn't been the one to tell you. Doesn't that let you know I can be trusted? Frankly, and I hope you will be insulted. No. There's no way you'll trust me. Nothing comes to mind. Suddenly Inigo raised his right hand high. I swear on the soul of Domingo Montoya, you will reach the top alive. The man in black was silent for a long time. Then he looked up. I do not know this Domingo of yours, but something in your tones that I must believe you. Throw me the rope. Inigo quickly tied it around a rock, dropped it over. The man in black grabbed hold, hung suspended alone in space. Inigo pulled. In a moment, the man in black was beside him. Thank you, the man in black said, and he sank down on the rock. Inigo sat alongside him. We'll wait until you're ready, he said. The man in black breathed deeply. Again, thank you. Why have you followed us? You carry baggage of much value. We have no intention of selling, Inigo said. That is your business. And yours? The man in black made no reply. Inigo stood and walked away, surveying the terrain over which they would battle. It was a splendid plateau, really, filled with trees for dodging around, and roots for tripping over, and small rocks for losing your balance on, and boulders for leaping off if you can climb on them fast enough, and bathing everything, the entire spot, moonlight. One could not ask for a more suitable testing ground for a duel. Inigo decided, it had everything, including the marvelous cliffs at one end, beyond which was the wonderful 1,000-foot drop. Always something to bear in mind when one was planning tactics. It was perfect. The place was perfect, provided the man in black could fence. Really fence. Inigo did then what he always did before a duel. He took the great sword from its scabbard and touched the side of the blade to his face 2 times, once along one scar, once along the other. Then he examined the man in black. A fine sailor, yes, a mighty climber, no question. Courageous, without a doubt. But could he fence? Really fence? Please, Inigo thought. It has been so long since I've been tested. Let this man test me. Let him be a glorious swordsman. Let him be both quick and fast, smart and strong. Give him a matchless mind for tactics, a background the equal of mine. Please, please, it's been so long. Let him be a master. Or grand wizard, if you will. I have my breath back now, the man in black said from the rock. Thank you for allowing me my rest. You'd best get on with it then, Inigo replied. The man in black stood. You seem a decent fellow, Inigo said. I hate to kill you. You seem a decent fellow, answered the man in black. I hate to die. But one of us must, Inigo said. Begin. And so saying, he took the 6-fingered sword and put it into his left hand. He had begun all his duels left-handed lately. It was good practice for him. And although he was the only living wizard in the world with his regular hand, the right, still, he was more than worthy of his left. Perhaps 30 men alive were his equal when he used his left. Perhaps as many as 50. Perhaps as few as 10. The man in black was also left-handed, and that warmed Inigo and made things fairer. His weakness against the other man's strength, all to the good. They touched swords, and the man in black immediately began the Agrippa defense, which Inigo felt was sound, considering the rocky terrain. For the Agrippa kept the feet stationary at first, and made the chances of slipping minimal. Naturally, he countered with Capifero, which surprised the man in black, but he defended well, quickly shifting out of Agrippa, and taking the attack himself, using the principles of Thibault. Inigo had to smile. No one had taken the attack against him in so long, and it was thrilling. He let the man in black advance, let him build up courage, retreating gracefully between some trees, letting his Benetti defense keep him safe from harm. Then his legs flicked, and he was behind the nearest tree, and the man in black had not expected it, and was slow reacting. Inigo flashed immediately out from a tree, attacking himself now, and the man in black retreated, stumbled, got his balance, continued moving away. Inigo was impressed with the quickness of the balance return. Most men the size of the man in black would have gone down, or at least fallen to one hand. The man in black did neither. He simply quick-stepped, wrenched his body erect, continued fighting. They were moving parallel to the cliffs now, and the trees were behind them mostly. The man in black was slowly being forced toward a group of large boulders, for Inigo was anxious to see how well he moved when quarters were close, when you could not thrust or parry with total freedom. He continued to force, and then the boulders were surrounding them. Inigo suddenly threw his body against a nearby rock, rebounding off it with stunning force, lunging with incredible speed. First blood was his. He had pricked the man in black. Pinked the man in black, grazed him only along the left wrist. A scratch was all, but it was bleeding. Immediately the man in black hurried his retreat, getting his position away from the boulders, getting out into the open of the plateau. Inigo followed, not bothering to try to check the other man's flight. There would always be time for that later. When the man in black launched his greatest assault, it came with no warning, and the speed and strength of it were terrifying. His blade flashed in the light again, and at first Inigo was only too delighted to retreat. He was not entirely familiar with the style of attack. It was mostly McBone, but there were snatches of Capoferro thrown in, and he continued moving backward while he concentrated on the enemy, figuring the best way to stop the assault. The man in black kept advancing, and Inigo was aware that behind him now he was coming closer and closer to the edge of the cliffs, but that could not have concerned him less. The important thing was to outthink the enemy, find his weaknesses, let him have his moment of exultation. Suddenly, as the cliffs came ever nearer, Inigo realized the fault in the attack that was flashing at him. A simple Thibault maneuver would destroy it entirely, but he didn't want to give it away too soon. Let the other man have the triumph a moment longer. Life allowed so few. The cliffs were very close behind him now. Inigo continued to retreat. The man in black continued advancing. Then Inigo countered with the Thibault, and the man in black blocked it. He blocked it. Inigo repeated the Thibault move, and again it didn't work. He switched to Capoferro. He tried Benetti. He went to Fabri. In desperation, he began a move used only twice by Saint. Nothing worked. The man in black kept attacking, and the cliffs were almost there. Inigo never panicked. He never came close, but he decided some things very quickly, because there was no time for long consultations. And what he decided was that although the man in black was slow in reacting to moves behind trees, and not much good at all amidst boulders, when movement was restricted, yet out in the open, where there was space, he was a terror, a left-handed black masked terror. "You were most excellent," he said. His rear foot was at the cliff edge. He could retreat no more. "Thank you," the man in black replied. "I have worked very hard to become so." "You are better than I am," Inigo admitted. "So it seems. But if that is true, then why are you smiling?" "Because," Inigo answered, "I know something you don't know." "And what is that?" asked the man in black. "I'm not left-handed," Inigo replied, and with those words he all but threw the six-fingered sword into his right hand, and the tide of battle turned. The man in black retreated before the slashing of the great sword. He tried to sidestep, tried to parry, tried to somehow escape the doom that was now inevitable, but there was no way. He could block 50 thrusts. The 51st flicked through, and now his left arm was bleeding. He could thwart 30 riposts, but not the 31st, and now his shoulder bled. The wounds were not yet grave, but they kept on coming as they dodged across the stones. And then the man in black found himself amidst the trees, and it was bad for him. So he all but fled before Inigo's onslaught. And then he was in the open again, but Inigo kept coming. Nothing could stop him. And then the man in black was back among the boulders, and that was even worse for him than the trees. And he shouted out in frustration and practically ran to where there was open space again. But there was no dealing with the wizard, and slowly, again, the deadly cliffs became a factor in the fight. Only now it was the man in black who was being forced to doom. He was brave, and he was strong, and the cuts did not make him beg for mercy, and he showed no fear behind his black mask. "You are amazing," he cried, as Inigo increased the already blinding speed of the blade. "Thank you. It does not come without effort." The death moment was at hand now. Again and again Inigo thrust forward, and again the man in black managed to ward off the attacks. But each time it was harder, and the strength in Inigo's wrists was endless, and he only thrust the more fiercely, and soon the man in black grew weak. "You cannot tell it," he said then, "because I wear a cape and mask, but I am smiling now." "Why?" Because I'm not left-handed either, said the man in black, and he too switched hands, and now the battle was finally joined, and Inigo began to retreat. Who are you? He screamed. No one of import. Another lover of the blade. I must know. Get used to disappointment. They flashed along the open plateau now, and the blades were both invisible. But oh, the earth trembled, and oh, the sky shook, and Inigo was losing. He tried to make for the trees, but the man in black would have none of it. He tried retreating to the boulders, but that was denied him too. And in the open, unthinkable as it was, the man in black was superior. Not much, but in a multitude of tiny ways. He was slightly higher quality, a hair quicker, a fraction stronger, a speck faster. Not really much at all, but it was enough. They met in the center plateau for the final assault. Neither man conceded anything. The sound of metal clashing metal rose. A final burst of energy flew through Inigo's veins, and he made every attempt, tried every trick, used every hour of every day of his years of experience, but he was blocked by the man in black. He was shackled by the man in black. He was baffled, thwarted, muzzled, beaten by the man in black. A final flick, and the great six-fingered sword went flying from his hand. Inigo stood there, helpless. Then he dropped to his knees, bowed his head, closed his eyes. Do it quickly, he said. May my hands fall from my wrists before I kill an artist like yourself, said the man in black. I would as soon destroy Da Vinci. However, and here he clubbed Inigo's head with the butt of his sword. Since I can't have you following me either, please understand that I hold you in the highest respect. He struck one more time, and the Spaniard fell unconscious. The man in black quickly tied Inigo's hands around a tree and left him there, for the moment, sleeping and helpless. Then he sheathed his sword, picked up the Sicilian's trail, and raced into the night. And the Spaniard is beat. And this is where then the man in black goes off to fight against the Turk, also known as Fezzik. And Fezzik has a slight addiction when he talks. And what does he do when he talks? He does like to rhyme. Would anybody like a peanut? But I'm going to have to jump slightly.
What? That was good.
Thanks. Let's see, past the...
That's my favorite line.
I don't get it.
It's in the movie.
It's a line from the movie. If he does the rhyming. It's okay. Jumping to the page 172. Where this is where the man in black gets a chance to confront Vizzini, the leader of the whole thing. Vizzini was waiting for him. Indeed, he had set out a little picnic spread. For the knapsack that he always carried, he had taken a small handkerchief, and on it he had placed 2 wine goblets. In the center was a small leather wine holder, and beside it, some cheese and some apples. The spot could not have been lovelier, a high point of the mountain path, with a splendid view all the way back to Florin Channel. Buttercup lay helpless beside the picnic, gagged and tied and blindfolded. Vizzini held his long knife against her white throat. "Welcome," Vizzini called when the man in black was almost upon them. The man in black stopped and surveyed the situation. "You've beaten my Turk," Vizzini said. "It would seem so. And now it is down to you, and is down to me." "So that would seem too," the man in black said, edging just a half step closer to the hunchback's long knife. With a smile, the hunchback pushed the knife harder against Buttercup's throat. It was about to bring blood. "If you wish her dead, by all means, keep moving," Vizzini said. The man in black froze. "Better," Vizzini nodded. No sound now beneath the moonlight. "I understand completely what you were trying to do," the Sicilian said finally, "and I want it quite clear that I resent your behavior. You were trying to kidnap what I have rightfully stolen, and I think it quite ungentlemanly. Let me explain," the man in black began, starting to edge forward. "You're killing her!" The Sicilian screamed, shoving harder with the knife. A drop of blood appeared. Now Buttercup's throat, red against white. The man in black retreated. "Let me explain," he said again, but from a distance. Again, the hunchback interrupted. "There is nothing you can tell me I do not already know. I have not had the schooling equal to some, but for knowledge outside of books, there is no one in the world close to me. People say I read minds, but that is not in all honesty true. I merely predict the truth using logic and wisdom. And I say you are a kidnapper. Admit it!" "I will admit that as a ransom item, she has value. Nothing more. I've been instructed to do certain things to her. It is very important that I follow my instructions. If I do this properly, I will be in demand for life, and my instructions do not include ransom, they include death. So your explanations are meaningless. We cannot do business together. You wish to keep her alive for ransom, whereas it is terribly important to me that she stop breathing in the very near future. Has it occurred to you that I have gone to great effort and expense as well as personal sacrifice to reach this point? The man in black replied. And that if I fail now, I might get very angry. And if she stops breathing in the very near future, it is entirely possible that you will catch the same fatal illness. And I have no doubt you could kill me. Any man who can get by a Nego and Fezzik would have no trouble disposing of me. However, has it occurred to you that if you did that, then neither of us would get what we want? You having lost your ransom item, and me my life. We are at an impasse then, said the man in black. I fear so, said the Sicilian. I cannot compete with you physically, and you are no match for my brains. You are that smart. There are no words to contain all my wisdom. I am so cunning. Oh, I'm going to die!